My name's Ethan Craigo, as you just said. My topic this year for senior exhibition is web programming as applied to music. So thanks for coming out. And in the interest of time, since I have a lot of things to say, let's get started. Okay, so a little background to start out with on why I was interested in this project. Two of my earliest hobbies and most passionate hobbies have always been music composition and programming. As for programming, I have dabbled in game programming since when I was very young, about 9 years old, and then moved on to web design and computational biology over the years. I've been lucky enough to hold several jobs and internships at various locations around the island that have only made me more enamored with the prospect of having it as a career. As for music, I now participate frequently in a lot of music performance groups at the high school, from which some of you who I don't go to school with may know me. But the earliest experience that I've had with music, and one of my most favorite pastimes, is music composition. Also, since the age of about 9, I've been composing and releasing solo electronic music. And in the years since then, I've released several albums online on iTunes and other online retailers under the artist name of Okrens, and done several live gigs, one of which is pictured right there, performing my own original music. I hope to keep both of those passions alive in the future and integrate them into my career. It's a pretty good time to be a web designer. The U.S. News and World Report, in its most recent job report, says that web development will grow about 20% by 2022. So it's a good career to go into. And if I can't somehow work music into that, I'd like to make it at least a very active side project. So I thought to combine these two main interests of mine into a Senior X presentation to most clearly work towards what I consider to be my dreams. I wanted to create something through programming to assist musicians who make original music to address certain problems I see in the music industry today. So I started out by doing a little research on the music industry. So the big take home from all this research was that the way people consume music today is vastly different, as I'm sure most of you know, from a generation ago. We're in the midst of a technological revolution that a lot of people have tried to fight at all costs over the years because people don't like changing their business models. The transition between buying, physical formats of music, CDs, vinyl records, etc., to more temporal, easily shared digital formats like MP3s or streams. And you may try and deny it, but it really is here to stay. According to the Nielsen Informatics Company, famous for their cable ratings, their 2014 U.S. music report, CD sales actually fell by 14.9% over the year 2014, another turn in their tailspin since about the mid-2000s when iTunes took over. So physical clearly is on its way up, but what actually surprised me is that digital track sales are falling as well over retailers like iTunes, falling by about 12.5% over the last year. So you may wonder, where's all the money going? People haven't stopped listening to music. So they're actually tuning in much more to streaming services like Spotify or monetized content on YouTube. Streams actually increased by 54.5% over the last 12 months. This is where the money is flowing right now. Now, since this is such new technology, record labels, especially major ones, haven't really figured out how to properly monetize this streaming and even digital track sales. They're still trying to rely on, a lot of them, the comfortable profit margins of CD and vinyl sales. This shift is losing them lots of money. So to try and compensate for this money loss, they've resorted to kind of desperate measures of forcing artists into more unfavorable deals, like the 360 deal, in which they take a share of absolutely everything you do, or even unscrupulous business practices leading to several recent lawsuits by artists like Lil Wayne, suing his label, I think recently, for about $51 million in lost profits. That's a lot of money. So these sorts of horror stories and things make a lot of musicians nowadays skeptical of signing to labels since they already don't want to give up their creativity. And I think this is a rightful concern to have. If you decide to go it alone, though, it can be hard for indie musicians to improve their skills or to get discovered online. The internet is still a bit of a double-edged sword for musicians. While nominally anybody can be famous without kissing anyone's ring anymore, there's a lot of static to wade through to find the gems online. And it's hard to know what's going to become popular, what's going to be the next Harlem Shake or Gangnam Style. most people don't take the time to find, the best content on the web because that would be, too much of a time investment. Instead, listen to things like pop radio, which is still the most popular format of listening anywhere. So in effect, this makes upward mobility as difficult as ever. The playing field is still not level for independent musicians, and major labels still dominate. My personal experience tells me that it's still pretty hard as well. I've had trouble finding feedback on my stuff as I grew older and made more music. So what I think is a solution to this problem is that independent musicians in the end just need to gather together and find a way to help each other out. They need tools through which they can hone their skills and become more striking local talents without sacrificing their individuality, their ideals, or too much of a share of their profits from their music. So, with all this in mind, I decided for my Senior X project to build a website where artists upload and receive feedback on their original work. Artists will upload works in progress to the site and then invite their friends or other users to review them and get back constructive criticism. There's also a collaborative feature where musicians can make music together and upload their tracks and see how other people make music to also grow as musicians. There's just a little flow chart of these two things. So both pathways, collaborations with other artists and receiving feedback on your own music, you get experience and whatnot. I also wanted to have a sleek, sort of simple but powerful and modern interface to draw the most people in. So yeah, this led me to my essential question. How will developing a community-based personal music creation and collaboration website help me grow as a programmer and also make a difference in musicians' lives? There's a tongue twister there. But I really was interested to see how this project could impact both of those interests I mentioned earlier. So I decided to give the website an eventual title of Oriva, and I started planning ahead. So, as for prior learning, I was pretty well set up to undertake this task, even though it was really large in scale. As I mentioned, I've been programming since about the 4th grade, on and off, in lots of different languages. So I was more familiar with general coding practices than maybe the average person. Though I hadn't constructed a big, huge website using a database, which is what I needed for this, user databases and all sorts of things, I've coded multiple web services at jobs working for the Jackson Laboratory before. So I understand sort of networking and how that all works. And the last thing is, through making lots of music myself, I'm very well aware of how audio files work and are played back. So I had to do some planning. Like any other complex website, this had to be coded in various languages with sort of front-end code in what's known as markup language like HTML for displaying content retrieved from the database in a user's web browser like Firefox or Chrome, and some back-end code for not displaying content but actually getting the user's request and retrieving what they want to find, like a specific user profile or a track, from the database. So the back-end stuff, for that I used a web framework called Django, which is based off of a popular programming language called Python. It allows me to quickly and efficiently develop a website without getting bogged down in really obscure code. So it made it a lot easier for me. I used a database called SQLite, though Django made it so I didn't have to work with it on such a low level very often. For the front-end stuff, I used a combination of 3 languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are very popular in using, sort of delivering nice content experiences to people. To help me out with the front-end code, I used a collection of tools called Bootstrap, originally developed by the people who made Twitter. The idea behind Bootstrap was to democratize sort of development of websites. So yeah. For my mentor, I chose Ben McCosker, the cousin of our very own GT department's Megan McCosker. Not only is Ben a programmer for multimedia cable company stuff in Providence, Rhode Island, but he's also the longtime owner of an indie experimental rock label there called Load Records. So he was basically the perfect mentor for what I had in mind for this project. He could not only answer my technical questions on how to build a website, but he was also able to answer lots of questions and give a nice perspective on the music industry for me. He obviously doesn't live here, so we communicated through periodic Google Hangouts. He was very useful to me. I was very thankful to have him. So, after all was said and done, I spent about 70 hours over 5 months constructing various features of the website and trying to make it a reality as much as possible in the given time frame. I started out working with user databases, making user profiles, profile pictures, that kind of stuff, and then moved on to working with audio files, constructing song and track pages for people to upload their stuff, and finally I made a custom audio player to play them back on the website. In doing so, I learned or got better at the languages in this list here. It would take me quite a bit of time and probably bore you all to death to explain them all. But the point is that it's lots of languages, lots of experience for a potential job market. It was very valuable to me. I also learned a lot of concepts like file structures for projects in code so I can organize my files, prototyping web pages in Photoshop, that kind of thing. Nice, clean-looking modern web design, backing up my code online in code repositories so if my computer crashed, I wasn't completely out of luck. Commenting my code so that other people could go back and make sense of it after I was done working on it, and time management and minimizing sorts of distractions. So, although I ended up getting done a lot of what I wanted to do, I endured certainly some roadblocks along the way. First and foremost among those is that between academics, sports, college applications, and musical groups, it was hard to find time this year to really work on it. I spent a lot of late nights trying to get features finished and done, probably more than I should have. As a result of this, I didn't get done all of the features I intended, including full-fledged collaboration thing and user comments like I intended to. This discouraged me at first. I was sort of bummed out that I couldn't fully realize it, but when I was talking to Ben once, he told me that for what I wanted to do, it would take a small web firm about 3 to 4 weeks of dedicated sort of around-the-clock work to develop a website like this. So I ended up reasoning with myself that for 70 hours, this was all right, and I just had to be okay with it in the end. The other thing is that programming is a lot of frustration in getting small things to work. Often forgetting like one closing parenthesis or making one typo can trigger this obscure error, like one shown in the picture, that takes hours to fix and trace back. So it's rough work. It's hard to temper your frustration sometimes, and you got to learn some restraint if you're going to be a programmer. What I learned worked the best for me is walking away, completely taking my mind off the task, and then coming back later. And often you'll find that the solution is like right under your nose. So that was nice. And the last challenge I had to deal with was that I tend to hyper-focus on things, and it's hard to pull away from that hyper-focus, so I spent lots of time on small things that, while they were nice to have on the website, maybe weren't the most essential things in the world. I can recall spending about 12 hours on generating waveform pictures from the files that people uploaded to link from their user profiles. I'll show you that a little later. And about 9 hours on making features so that people could add tags to their songs. So a lot of the work was spent doing small things, but in the end, when it came to a time crunch, I realized I had to step back, look at the big picture, and sort of triage what features I needed to accomplish first to make this presentation possible. So there are those. So while I still have a lot to do before I'm ready to release this to the public, it already can function as a rudimentary community for artists and as a place for them to show off their work through tracks. And it's the first real functional website that I've coded with user content and automatic sort of page templates, known as a dynamic website that I've made before. So it's a large step up from the simple web services I used to make that I mentioned before. And last but not least, I'd like to restate that this website is not like one of those simple online creators where you plug in data like my website title, whatever, press the go button and it's done. It took a lot more work than that. So, I'll just run a little bit of a demo. Oh, I hope this is right. So let's say I'm an artist and I want to upload my original track, Sunset, to this website. I type in the title, select a genre, sort of describe it to people, you know, whatever you want, check public so that people can see it, upload my MP3 file, add a few tags on it so that people looking to find it could, or people looking for this musical style could find it, and submit it. And this would be the first time it would fail, so hopefully this works. Yes, all right. So, one of my own tracks, by the way. But you get this audio player that plays things back and sort of a mock-up of what one of these comments would look like. And if I go actually back to my profile, you can see automatically generated for me was this waveform that takes me back to the page. So, yeah, that's a big feature of the website. That's what I was looking to demo. So yeah, let's go back to the slideshow.
About 4 minutes, even.
Okay, I'll finish up. So, future features. There are lots of future features I wish to develop, like forums, you know, the artist collaboration feature I was mentioning earlier, sort of a friend system, or maybe a mobile interface for people who want to browse the website on their cell phones, et cetera, et cetera. I also want to actually release the website so it can do the work and fulfill really the second part of my essential question more clearly. But I've realized that I've come to learn a lot from just coding this website, and hopefully provided a potential solution in the future for musicians who are looking to get feedback on their work and hone their skills. With my experience coding this, I can now develop lots more things and be hopefully a little more hireable in the job market. Last but not least, I plan to major in computer science at college this fall, as this project has only made me like it more. And I hope to benefit others in many ways with my learning there. So, special thanks to Ben McCosker, of course, for mentoring me, Ms. Dillon for facilitating the whole Senior X process and making sure that I had all my things in on time. I usually didn't, so that was good for the check. And last but not least, MDIHS for giving students this sort of opportunity to pursue their dreams. Here are my sources. And that's it. Happily take any questions anyone has.
Questions from the panel first?
What's the significance of Ariba? How did you choose the name, and what does it mean?
Well, I knew it's either a Latin or Greek root word, or AUR is related to the ear, and then I just experimented with things that sounded good. It took a while, actually, to develop the title. Yeah.
Is this like fan fiction for music?
Hmm?
Do you think it's going to become like a fan fiction? Are you familiar with fanfiction.net?
Yeah, sort of.
I feel like it's going to turn into that.
If you're talking about like community writing and places where people can get feedback easily, yeah, it's sort of an analog to that. Yeah. Yes.
Have you given anyone else other than really yourself? Because you said you haven't given it to the public yet. Have you given anyone else a chance to like kind of play around with it and see how they like it, or?
Since it's just on my computer right now, that it's hard to do that, but I plan to, even in just like the coming weeks, just sort of debut it on a network, like my home network, invite some friends over and see if they can work with it. Yeah.
Do you plan to monetize this?
It would be neat, but I would try and minimize ads.
I work in the radio industry, and I think it's very interesting. I mean, when you talk about the changing landscape, I mean, we see more and more, even from record labels dealing with the radio stations, because there's so much is online now. And I mean, we see with our 5 radio stations more and more people listening online. I mean, when you think about the fact that everyone has a smartphone, and everyone has the laptops, but the one thing that we see a difficulty, at least in this area, is there's still not Wi-Fi everywhere. I mean, up until a year and a half ago, you couldn't get cell service in Somersville. The other thing is that companies are restricting data. So, I mean, if you're on a public forum, it's hard because of streaming music eats up data, as I know that you know. So how do you deal with that in terms of with your networking?
That's an awfully hard question, but I would hope to offer sort of multiple streaming options to reduce the bandwidth taken up by these things. I could have low quality and high quality streams that I could automatically make these multiple formats of a song when people upload it. So that would hopefully reduce some of the bandwidth, I think. I think that would be mainly how I would go about doing it.
Easy question. Sounds like you're on your way to college, or where do you plan on going?
I'm going to Harvard College in the fall.
Nice.
Okay, general audience, any questions?
Really?
How much time do you have left? Like, how much work do you have left
Lots.
on that?
Well, there's,
A
it's
time
essentially,
estimate.
it's sort of an unlimited amount of work, but if you're looking at
Like, for like a rudimentary thing you can kind of
prototyping, I want to say probably 100 more hours of work. There's a lot of stuff I want to do. Yeah, David?
One of the big controversies with other sort of social networking sites has been the issue of privacy and user data. Have you thought about your approach to that yet?
Well, my initial idea behind this was that there's going to have to be a lot of privacy, because not everybody's really comfortable with sharing their works in progress with more than a couple friends. And some people want an actual physical place, a web page where they can have it. So you could see with the privacy check mark on the, I don't know if you noticed that, on the upload feature. I haven't really finished developing that yet, which is why I didn't really talk about it much, but essentially I'm going to make it so only if you click a certain link that I share with you that you're going to be able to get to the track if you set it to private.
Right. Okay. So it's a site for the artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
Lucas.
There's already a lot of uploading and streaming websites such as SoundCloud and Bandcamp right now. How are you going to make Oriva unique in a way that will be able to compete with those other like major websites?
I've thought about this a lot, and the answer is, I think, the nature to which I'm willing to have forums for discussion of music and how to improve one's own music. SoundCloud has little comments that are displayed alongside a track, but they're not really places for big discussions. I haven't really, other than several obscure subreddits, been able to find any places online where people can really discuss in depth how they can improve their musicality. So yeah. Kirsten.
Do you plan to make a separate module for the forming part of it, or will it be inlaid into the website?
So I would think, well, it depends what feature you're talking about, like the collaboration or the actual track.
Well, I guess for like the collaboration part, for like for larger discussions that would be hard to fit into just into the original site constraints.
Mm-hmm.
Would you create a separate site for that, or would it be a link off of the actual site?
It would certainly be a different branch off of the website and rather difficult to develop in line with the pages I've already developed. But my general idea is to make each collaboration sort of have a page where you have your files and you have your little message board with discussions and topics.
All right.
Great. Well, audience, you are dismissed, and the panel will